So people have asked me legalese questions, and I am not a lawyer, just like I am not a doctor or a therapist. But I know somebody, and so she's coming on the show to hang out with us. It is I Should Be Writing, Season 18, Episode 37.
But I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.
And hi there, welcome to I Should Be Writing. This is a podcast for wannabe fiction writers. When I made this tagline, wannabe wasn't such a bad word. That was 18 years ago. We're still here, and that's still the tagline, but there's nothing wrong with starting out. First step is still better than no steps. So, wannabe is not derogatory. I've been doing the show since 2005. I guess that would be 17 years. Math is hard. And I started out with no sales, and I'm doing it now in 2022, and I've sold several books and gotten award nominations and won a couple. So this podcast is part talking to people about all the crap that a beginning writer goes through and how you can keep going as long as you keep going. And if you want to listen to the chronicle of my career, there are hundreds of hours in the archives that you can do it. Some people do that. I don't know why. It's weird, but...
well, you are awesomer. That's why.
Thank you, Marguerite. First, I want to introduce our guest. It is Solicitor Marguerite Kenner, who is a honest-to-God lawyer, as well as co-owner, publisher, and co-benevolent overlord of Escape Artists, which is the publishing umbrella under which Escape Pod is published. I just use a preposition properly, and I feel really good about myself. So
well
welcome,
done. Hi, Mer. Thank you so much for having me on. This is going to be really fun.
Yes, I certainly hope so. So yeah, we start out with doing... Sorry. Accountability.
Okay.
That's the word I'm looking for. We're doing accountability so I can promise you that I'm working as much as you are. Unfortunately, the last time I did a show was 2 days ago, and yesterday I had a migraine, so I don't have a whole lot to update since Tuesday, but I did write this morning for about 700 words, and as soon as I get done with this podcast and my violin lesson, I'm probably going to write some more. And I've made some more notes. I made a lot of notes. So
all the
notes. I can
notes.
keep in my head the things I need to change, notes on edit. So I don't have an updated word count for you. I was going to get up and give a updated word count, except I don't want to show the layout of this room because it's too messy. But there's a green screen behind me. There's a bed almost within reach. Maybe I'm reaching out and there's like a bed there that's like a foot away, and there's this tiny little corridor between the bed and the green screen, and on the other side is a big mess and 2 dogs, and one dog has a cone. And they were both lying down and settled, and I thought, well, if I go in the other room to get my laptop to get my word count, I'm going to stir them up. So I can't do that. They're going to knock over the green screen. Rose is very wide right now, still with the cone, and which is also why I haven't put on makeup. I just, I weighed the benefits and bad things and decided
You did a risk-based analysis. I'm very proud of you. That's very lawyerly.
Talking, I swear. And Marguerite, one of the things I love about you is you're always so very... Well, what did you say people call you? Like, deadly serious and...
oh gosh, I'm trying to. I have to remember the phrase now. My dear friend Claire Russo once called me dangerously polite, deadly serious,
yes.
And I liked it so much that it's in my Twitter bio. And I actually just bought myself a bracelet that has that engraved on it because
nice.
I love the concept so much.
Nice, yes. So dangerously polite, deadly serious.
Yep.
I know Marguerite for years. I love her dearly. Because of she lives in England. I don't get to talk to her very much, but even I can tell really quickly when she gets that rolling up the sleeves, gonna whoop somebody's ass tone of voice that gets...
Yeah, it usually starts with the word,
So, I love going to her for advice because she doesn't seem to get all hot-headed and angry like I do. She just basically sits there and sharpens her knife and just goes, tell me more. So, I'm really glad you could come on the show.
Thank you.
Also, it is time for good news. Marguerite, did you want to tell anything that you were working on?
Oh my God, what aren't I working on?
Exactly.
So Esmer introduced, along with my partner Alistair Stewart, we co-own and run Escape Artists, which is the publishing company that produces a bunch of the short fiction podcasts that you may know and love, I hope very much. Escape Pod, Podcastle, Pseudopod, Cast of Wonders, and now Cats Cast. Yes, we made a podcast for cats. That's the way we roll. And so with the publisher hat, I have a lot of different, what I would call structural projects. So there's a lot of big kind of boring, uninteresting things that go on behind the scenes that I am uniquely suited to handle. And they're usually business and board meeting related. So that's a lot of what I've been doing. But if you want like a specific accomplishment, on Tuesday, when horrible news was released in the United States, instead of doom scrolling all day, I went and I lifted weights. And I probably lifted weights a little too close to the sun because my biceps are still not talking to me.
Oh.
But that's my accomplishment. Is I got a PB and I didn't kill anybody in the news.
Nice.
So yay for me.
Yeah, I started running again this morning. I was proud of myself. Even after all 3 running apps I was trying to use did not do it for me, I still managed to run. So
bravo.
That was good. Yeah, so tell me guys, I'm realizing now that I've been podcasting for so long, a lot of the last decade or so is kind of a blur. I think this is a whole getting older thing. I don't know. But if I use the phrase, Cats Cast is Escape Artist Tauntaun Sleeping Bag, will you get it? Do you know what we're talking about? I'll give Chad a second to catch up.
Maybe we can put that on the list of bar conning. I can tell the story of how Cats Cast
came that's a great idea.
I will write it down.
Because people are reporting rejections in the chat. They're reporting good news in the chat. I want to give the 2 pieces of good news I got via email first, and then I'll read the chat. So first we have John writing, this is very sweet. I set myself a modest goal for Camp Nano through April and met it after taking an accidental break for writing for 2 months. I listen to I Should Be Writing all the time from Australia, so your Twitch streams are very early mornings for me, which I can't easily do in our house, but I wanted to feel included. So I'm looking forward to your new book. I think that's awesome, John. I really love it when people mail with their good news, because we are here for it. We are all here just waiting to cheer for the good news. And find the yay button and press it manually, so now good yaying.
Alright.
I am not hearing clapping. Are y'all hearing clapping?
I am not hearing clapping, but I wouldn't expect I would hear clapping. But I see confetti, and that's
the confetti's
awesome.
Good enough for the visual.
There we go.
So, congratulations, John. Thank you for writing in. We're all very proud of you. And keep up the good work. I swear.
Did you say you had a second one?
Yes, I do. Brian is someone who does not come regularly. Actually, I don't know if he's ever come to the live show, but he does email me about once a month with the list of his rejections. So he emailed me, and he's got 19 more rejections for April.
Holy cow! That's work. Good job.
And did that work? Yes! Okay. The math worked. Team rejection count is up to 168. Well done, Brian. Thank you for sending in. We wish you could be here live, but you still keep up with us, even though you're not, so thank you.
I dig it.
We're going to do 1 yay for all the rejections. Okay, let me go back up. I believe it started with Meerkat. Tell me if anybody reported a rejection before Meerkat, please let me know. Meerkat had 1, I think. Starry Green had 2. That's great. And Shards met Camp Nano goal. That's fantastic. Okay, so we're going to do the ding 3 more times. It's just so much easier with a button, I swear.
I'm sorry, Mer. You're doing great.
There we go.
Keep
171.
Going. Woohoo!
I'm just so delighted to have figured out the whole counting thing. So A lot of streamers count deaths. I count rejections.
We have a corpse count for how many times Alistair and I laugh during opening monologues.
Yeah, actually, I didn't even mention Marguerite is also a streamer.
Do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, you talk about that while I do the shout out in the chat.
That sounds good. So Alistair and I stream twice a week on Sundays at 10:30 a.m. UK time. We do a chill gaming stream. Right now, I am playing Outer Wilds for the first time. I'm completely in love with / frustrated by that game. It's wonderful. And then kind of our mainstream is on Wednesday evenings at 10 p.m. UK time, which is called Bedtime Stories. It started off with us reading just fiction. It's usually scary fiction, horror fiction. So we've done a lot of creepypasta, and we've done a lot of public domain horror. We've done longer works as well, including we did Ursula's Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking.
The winner of all the awards.
Winner of all the awards, yes. And it was delightful and wonderful. Mm-hmm. And then we've started now doing monthly interviews as well. So like we just finished playing the first 3 chapters of Scarlet Hollow, which is an amazing hand-drawn animated choose your own adventure narrative game that doesn't have any voice acting in it. It's just, static imagery, choose your own adventure text. So we're doing all the voices. And we've just finished those 3 chapters. And then last week we interviewed the creators of the game.
That's awesome.
So, it's fun. Streaming is lots of fun. Like lots of people, it started off as there's a pandemic and I want to see people kind of hobby. Yeah. And now it's Wednesday night and there's fan fiction of my sourdough starter. I better go pick a costume for it to wear before we go live. Mm-hmm. That's what my life has become.
It's a pretty good life, I gotta say.
It is a pretty good life. You gotta have contrast, right? You have to have creative outlets and absurdity as well as the day-to-day. And I know you're a creative person, Mar, and that's a whole different thing to balance, is making the creative your day-to-day. Mm-hmm. My creativity has to do with contractual clauses. It's a different type of creativity, but I appreciate having my whimsy to go alongside it.
It's the world would fall apart if not for organized and calm people like you. I am so glad to have you as our benevolent overlord at EA, because I know that stuff's not gonna fall down. So
it takes a village, right? You can't,
seriously.
I think the more types of people with different experiences and different strengths and different weaknesses can be assets as well, that you have when you're trying to accomplish a common goal, the better. So it's never a bad thing to have the super organized person or the super creative or the super deep thinking and insightful sorts of people. You kind of need all of that.
Yeah. When a while ago, I've done many, many podcasts. I'm telling that for anybody who's new listening, not you, Marguerite. And one thing I did when I was working at Lulu and then Lulu TV before it died, I started doing a week daily fake news show called This Week in Alternate History. And with my best friend from college, Jason. And Jason and I, we're best friends from college for a reason. We get along great. We got a lot of chemistry when we talk together. And it's like people were surprised that we were both married to someone else and saying that we should be together. And I'm like, well, first, that's a little rude because we're both happily married. Second, if Jason and I got together, we're too similar. Every time I think about it, I picture both of us clinging to a log and there's a whirlpool, and we're both screaming. It's like not one of us going like, okay, well, how do we get out of this? What can we grab onto? But no, it's like, we're gonna die. Oh my God, you're right. We're so gonna die. It's like we're both too similar. So
contrast is good.
Contrast is
good.
Yeah,
contrast is good.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told him that. It's not very flattering to either of us, but still, it's just more of it, when we have fun together. It's great fun, but I don't think we've ever had to be serious at each other very often. Yeah.
See, my other nickname is Mom Fred Anxiety Override, i.e., I am the person who can take a large group of people who are all indecisive and unable to progress as a group and go, right, we're just going to order sampler platters for the table and we'll figure it out.
Oh, yes. Marguerite being in charge of a large group breakfast is a thing to behold, y'all. It's magic.
I miss those. That's probably the only thing I miss about Worldcon, but I do miss those breakfasts.
Oh, is my volume too low? Uh-oh. Thank you.
Hi, Preemie.
Preemie's here?
Preemie, hello.
Ow. God, I nearly destroyed everything.
Please don't harm yourself, Mer.
I will do my best.
I'm introducing the chat to Chungus. So Chungus is my sourdough starter. He looks like this. He's a little happy jar. I think you sound a little better to me, Mer. Definitely. Okay. I will wait for the chat to like validate if it sounds better. But yes. This is our little. This is Chungus.
Now they're all excited about Chungus.
Chungus is very exciting. Chungus is a sourdough starter who then our stream moderators started making costumes for. And now Chungus has an extensive wardrobe and canonical pronouns. And Bob, the sourdough starter from A Wizard's Guide, is they're like a ship. The ship's name is Bungus. I think there's fan fiction of Bungus now.
Does Ursula know?
Oh, Ursula got a very nice thank you card because Ursula is Chungus's godparent.
Ah, of course.
Yes. So
that fits.
You know.
That fits.
Chungus is going to be 2 years old next month.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Seriously mature. Oh my God, he's going to start going through his motorcycle phase. I'll have to get him like a leather jacket or something.
How is that?
See, this
for
is what
audio?
happens.
Yeah, I just killed another sourdough starter. I got distracted, I think it's the book. The book is just like overwhelming my brain. So I checked. I'm like, I haven't fed that in a long time. And I went and they were like, at least when sourdough starters die, there's no bones or depression or shame. It's just like, damn it, again. So yeah.
See, my aunts, so my whole family grew up in California. And when I was in college, my aunt and uncle, his job changed and they moved to the East Coast. And so everybody who knows anything about sourdough knows about San Francisco sourdough. So my Aunt Diane dehydrated her very, very well matured sourdough starter and took it with her to the East Coast and rehydrated it and has kept it alive ever since. So I am like following in familial footsteps.
Yes. I have, ever since I found out about the whole sourdough starter and how, you know, if you keep feeding it, it will last forever. I wanted to put that in a story. I wrote one story about it, but I've wanted to do more. Just the idea of making something and keeping that thing around by adding just a little bit more to it every once in a while. When mine died, my feelings mostly confused terror. It grew a weird black spire overnight like a video game boss lair, and I screamed and threw out the jar.
I think that sounds wise, because isn't that how the Sand Kings started?
Probably, yeah. I think whenever anything turns black in the sourdough starter, you just throw it out. Yeah. Good move.
Black is a good no kind of indicator, and I hear a puppy snoring, and it makes me so happy. I do not have any pets. Chungus is my only pet because we live in an apartment, so no doggos for me.
Yes, I think I just distracted the doggo and she stopped snoring, but there was lots of there was snoring back there. But anyway, thank you all for your good news. I will hit the button once again just for everybody who said good news and we haven't had the button, or if you have good news that you didn't feel like sharing. I got a couple of emails today. I don't know if I can talk about them, but they were good news and they made me feel good. So I'm hitting the button for me too.
Hit the button for yourself, Mer. I approve.
Thank you. Okay, well, let's get started. I don't have any like smart questions to ask to lead to other smart questions. I'm just going to ask the questions that have come up in previous shows that I didn't know the answer to.
Let's do it.
So the first one was using a trademark. Oh, I'll just say the caveat. Marguerite is American. She lives and practices British law. Lives in Britain and practices British law.
Actually, both. So Yeah, so I am a qualified paralegal in California, the state of California, but my legal qualification, I am a lawyer in London. So
Okay.
I practice UK law, but I can also kind of sort of practice a little bit of California law. But the way I describe it is I'm bilingual. I can translate US to UK. And
Okay.
since we're going to be talking about IP, that's pretty much, that covers the bases,
Yeah.
because US and European law, of which until at least recently
Mm-hmm.
the UK was a part, are kind of the two big camps when it comes to ways things are approached. At least everything I think we're going to talk about today.
Okay. So, sorry I got that wrong, but
No, don't
there
worry
was a
about it.
question about using a trademark name
Yep.
inside of a story or a
Mm-hmm.
book because someone said their editor made them take out every single mention of Facebook or Wendy's or something. And I remember They Might Be Giants has a song called AKA Driver, but in the lyrics, they say, Hey, NyQuil Driver. It's NyQuil
Yeah.
driving time.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, none of us could really remember any solid legal rules of what you can. Clearly, they didn't want them to use NyQuil in the title of the song, but there was no
Yep.
problem singing about it. So where does
Mm-hmm.
that? Where do these trademarks fall?
Right. So let's talk about what a trademark is. A
Okay.
trademark is designed to make sure that if you see that name, you know what that name is associated with, what product it's associated with. It's a stamp of approval that says, if I say the word Coca-Cola, I know that we're talking about that brown carbonated sweet beverage that comes in those distinctly shaped bottles. So the strictly legal position is, as long as you include that little TM symbol, that's the requirement that you have to meet to
Oh,
use a trademark. So if you're
really?
talking about Facebook as Facebook, and every time you say the word Facebook, you put the little TM over it, you're following the letter of the law. But you're right. 9 times out of 10, any major publisher or even an independent publisher is going to say, do we have to say Facebook? Can we say something else? And here's why. There is a big gap out there between what the law says you can do and what a corporation with more money than you have can get away with. And most people are, rightly in certain cases, very concerned about a big corporation going, you know what? I think I'm just going to squish everybody that comes up on a Google search today when I put in my name, because they have the millions and millions of lawyers and dollars to do that.
Yeah.
So lawyers call that commercial reality versus black letter law. So the black letter law is, if you use the little TM symbol, you're probably okay. But commercial reality is, nobody wants to risk the ire of a large IP like Disney or
Mm-hmm.
Marvel, which is why you don't use those names.
Right.
And then the other thing to keep in mind, especially in literary work, is the very blurry line between, I'm just using the word Facebook to talk about Facebook, but if you spend a paragraph describing a social media platform that was developed by a guy who went to college, blah, 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 then we're not talking about a trademark. We're not talking about a word that identifies a particular product. We're talking about the character of Facebook, or we're describing Facebook as a thing. And that's not what a trademark is. Now we're veering more towards the copyright side of things, or the trade dress side of things. Other sorts of intellectual property that can be that exist. So when we talk about IP, people tend to think, oh, IP is intellectual property. It's not. Think about a bundle of sticks. IP is a bunch of different things and a bunch of different rights that you can break up into different pieces, or that you can put all together in big bundles. So trademark is a type of right. It can be very similar to what we call trade dress, which is how a thing looks as opposed to how we call it. The Coca-Cola bottle is trade dress. Copyright is the act of reducing an idea into a form. Writing is a form of copyright. And then within each of those types of rights, we have more sticks. So one of the most important elements of property is what's called the right to publish. So in copyright, the right to make a story, for example, available to the world is kind of the essence of copyright. But it's not all that copyright is. It's also the right to say, I will be attributed as the creator of this project. It's also the right to say, I don't give you permission to publish this. And that's an active thing, not a defensive thing. So there's lots of little bundles within what it is we would call the right of copyright, which is really pedantic, but it can become important when you start to get into like specific use cases.
Yeah.
So usually what people do is they'll come up with, they'll call it face time or book face, or, you come up with spoonerisms and other sorts of things to let people know what you're talking about without actually saying the thing that we all know that you're talking about. That's one of the most common workarounds.
Yeah, I remember the comic strip Bloom County from the 80s.
Yep.
Had Oliver had his Banana 2000 instead of an Apple computer. So they were, he was doing it back then. Can I just say, I don't know if it's because I'm a writer and weird stuff like this really get under my skin, but does it bother you when people say copywritten?
Well, it depends on kind of what they mean.
They always seem to mean like past tense. Copyright is an R-I-G-H-T. It has to do with rights. It doesn't have to do with writing, which is admittingly our job, which is why it's confusing. But
well, what is something that has been copywritten?
It's misuse of the word copyrighted.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I know.
That was the next. I was like, so that's copyrighted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Daniel says, stepped away briefly. Hope I'm not asking to repeat, but what are the rules to stay out of trouble when parodying IP? That's similar to what we were talking about, but not specifically. So what about parodying IP?
Right. So parody is a concept that falls under the broader bucket called fair use. Now, fair use is a concept that people think exists around the world. It doesn't. Fair use is a specific U.S. IP rule. And in the U.S., fair use is where that misconception came from, that if you only use 15 seconds of a song, it's okay. Fair use broadly means that we, the government, have decided that there is some leeway that exists in intellectual property that allows people to use protected material, like a copyright or a song or a trademark, in ways that we as a society think are important. I mean, that's all a law is, right? It's a government giving a rubber stamp to theoretically what a group of people have said is an important thing that we all want to do. So, classic example of fair use is parody, i.e., if I make fun of something, if I am being satirical, my use of someone else's, let's say, a speech in a satirical presentation is protected as fair use. Now, fair use is very narrowly construed, both in the US and around the world. There are other concepts similar to fair use in the UK. For example, those are the ones I'm most familiar with, but they have similar restrictions. They're generally limited to news, specifically current events a lot of the time, commentary, satire, that, being critical of someone's work in a current events context.
Like using a logo in a political cartoon?
Exactly. That's a great example. What is not fair use or protected speech or anything under that bubble is commercial use. So things like, I am going to sell a book and I'm going to talk all about Facebook in this book that I'm going to write. And I'm not making any satirical commentary about Facebook. I've just decided Facebook exists and I'm going to use it. That is not fair use. A lot of fair use has to do with intention. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to, in the moment on a live broadcast, talk about how that politician's statement was false? No, that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to make money. You have a commercial goal. That is probably not fair use. Right. And so in general, what I advise people is that if podcasts get really into the gray area here because people think, well, it's a contemporary news form. So, I'm going to just parody. Unless you're talking about real world events, assume the answer is no when it comes to any sort of commercial product. As an editor, when I was an editor more often, I would present this as world building challenges to people who would say, well, I just want to use MySpace. I'm like, well, can't you come up with another thing that's like MySpace that everybody knows is MySpace, but is more suited to and speaks more to your world? I mean, that's not hard to do. A great example is profanity. We have frack, we have dreck, we have all of those other fake swear words that people use to build their worlds to avoid profanity. You can do exactly the same thing with major brands. Preemie, you're probably not being asked. Can I just read Preemie's? So Preemie says, hi, I'm Canadian. My publisher is in England, but I still have to sign a thing saying to let my books be published in the US, I'm not violating US fair use laws. I'd be surprised if it says U.S. fair use laws. It probably says U.S. obscenity laws, which is basically you have to tell a publisher, I am not knowingly putting things in here that I know are illegal against laws in the U.S. I mean, it could be that it's against U.S. fair use. That'd be surprising to me, but
yeah.
Just a quick question. So how does someone get away with a Star Trek parody like Scalzi's Red Shirts? That's a great question, isn't it? The short answer, in my opinion, is there's two things. One, Scalzi did a lot of work to make sure that, again, he is invoking core concepts from Star Trek. The concept of the red shirt, the individual who is sent on the away mission who doesn't survive, the idea of intergalactic travel, lots of the core elements of Star Trek without ever labeling them as Star Trek specific elements. There is a really famous, I think it's a copyright case. I can't remember exactly what it is, from years and years ago, where Battlestar Galactica and Star Wars had a huge IP battle. Because when you boil down some of the elements, those two things look an awful lot alike. You have scrappy underdogs, you have big galactic foes, you have cute animals, you have small ships that go into big ships, And I think the number one point of confusion that people have is that ideas are dirt cheap and not protectable.
Yeah.
Everybody has ideas. It doesn't matter. We can all have the same idea, but what is protectable is what we're going to do with those ideas, which is we're all going to write very different books based on those ideas. The books, the reduction to practice of those ideas, those are protectable. But the idea itself, everybody can do anything they want with it. You hear this in the news all the time. I think the latest version of this I heard was in the romance field. Was one particular author was claiming that her concept of having a family with a lot of brothers who all shared the same last name, and I think they were referred to as like the Cocky brothers or something, that series of book titles were unique to her and that nobody could ever do anything else like that. And titles are, yeah, exactly.
I think Ray Bradbury was not happy with Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11, but he couldn't do anything about it. And
exactly.
Cory Doctorow, out of spite, started writing a bunch of short stories and naming them after Bradbury books, including he wrote I, Robot, and then he wrote I, Rowboat. And
exactly.
Yeah, he wrote The Martian Chronicles, which was excellent novella. We reprinted it on Escape Pod. It's one of my favorite things of his.
That's right. Titles are not copyrightable. The way that a title looks physically, like its font and its colors and its typography and its placement might be a trademark. You could probably make that argument, but it's ridiculously expensive to try and trademark titles, and it doesn't get you the protection you want. I mean, trademarks are there to protect brands that want to last forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and you're not going to probably do that with a book.
Right.
Do you want a quiz for your chat?
Is it for me or the chat? Am I performing for the chat?
It could be both. I could ask you the question and see if anybody gets it right.
Okay.
What's the oldest trademark?
Mickey Mouse. No,
Not
trademark.
Trademark. Oldest trademark.
I don't know. I
Guesses?
keep thinking of copyright.
What?
I keep thinking of copyright, not trademark.
So copyrights are literary, creative, or musical or artistic works. Trademarks are, think brands. What do you think are some of the oldest brands that might have trademark protection?
Starvin says Dutch East India's company
That's
logo.
a great guess, but actually not true. You're good thinking, good time period, good national origin. You're very close. Now, Coca-Cola is a lot older. Tree Lobster, you are very warm. It is, in fact, a beer. No, the British monarchy is not copyrighted. That would be hilarious then.
I just want to say real quick, as you guys guess, Catwood says you could use the title of a song for your book and it wouldn't be an issue. Douglas Copeland wrote Girlfriend in a Coma, which is a story about a guy whose girlfriend goes into a coma. And that is also the title of a very old Smiths song. I didn't want to say very old, but it is.
Points to Tree Lobster. It is Bass Ale. Bass
Wow.
Ale is the oldest continuously registered trademark.
All
Nicely
right.
done.
Well done, Tree Lobsters. You don't win anything because Marguerite threw the quiz at us and I didn't prepare anything.
It's okay. It's okay.
So in short, you're saying while you have the legal right to do so, maybe if your publisher suggests you not say Facebook and McDonald's in your book, then don't. Because it's easier.
Because your publisher is going to be the one who has to defend the cease and desist that the McDonald's is going to send.
Yeah, that's.
And keep in mind, all of the the conventional wisdom that we have about, oh, it's okay, I'll just use it once, existed before things like algorithmic searching existed. So these days, try and put up a song that belongs to somebody else on YouTube and see how long it takes YouTube to ping you with a copyright violation. Short answer is it'll be probably almost immediately, because AI technology and algorithmic searching are now developed to the point where major brand holders have a lot of powerful tools to find and automatically send takedown notices globally.
And there's nothing you can do to, like, if you get permission, there's nothing you can do to protect yourself. John Anelia wrote my theme song for me. I paid him for it. But it's on one of his albums, and whatever the company doing the searching for that out, even though I think he's an indie creator, but he sells his songs on one of the sites, and that site keeps muting my theme song on YouTube. And even though I defend it, I'm gonna have to defend it every single time it happens.
Every single time. Nope, we do it with all of the EA podcasts the same way. We have permissions from artists. We have permissions from artists' representation. But there are so many. One, automated searching is very all or nothing. And they err on the side of defending a creator's rights. We can have a whole conversation about whether that's the way it should be. But two, there are a lot of middlemen involved in any creative project. It's not just the author and the audience. You all know this. It's agents, it's editors, it's publishers, it's distributors. There are lots of different people in the chain. And the way that the defense of intellectual property has been pushed onto the middlemen like platforms like Etsy, like eBay, like all of these different platforms. That is where people are trying to place responsibility for policing these rules. And those platforms rely on automated tools. So even though you have permission, even though, you have it in writing, you're still going to get caught, because that is the way that the system now works and is set up to defend rights out there. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, Numbers Ninja used a fan video that she made, animation that she made to They Might Be Giants song. And when she was about to apply for college, we were suddenly worried that she was going to get DMCA'd or accused of copyright violation. And so I was very lucky that I know somebody who knows They Might Be Giants. And luckily, everyone was very kind and very swift. And so even though it could have been taken down, we could at least say use with permission on the page. But yeah, Daniel, thank you so much for referencing Baby Shark, because that reminded me what I was going to say. Somebody posted a TikTok to the Discord about, I guess she's a booktuber, but she figured out that, I can't remember what Star Wars novel it is, but it's one of the newer ones, where Baby Shark is in the book. Only it's not Baby Shark. So it's just describing this phenomenon of the baby shark, and the booktuber reads it aloud, and she's like, did you put Baby Shark in this book? So that was one way to get around it. They never said Baby Shark. They just,
exactly,
aquatic animals and stuff.
Daniel Beer just said in the chat, artists performing their own music getting hit with DMCAs while streaming. Yep. And that's, again, automated tools and lots of middlemen.
Yeah. So for using songs in books, using song lyrics, you just ask for permission. You can, as far as I know, the publisher will want you to pay for it if they ask for a fee. You need to know how to get in touch with people, which admittedly these days is a lot easier. I lucked out because I quoted 2 indie artists in Station Eternity that one I knew and the other one I supported on Patreon, so they were pretty easy to get to. So I got clipping permission and I got Garage's permission for quotes in Station Eternity. So,
permission is always better when it comes to using someone's rights. Apologizing is what some people try to get away with. That almost always backfires. And there are certain tiers of brands or properties. Like, you're never going to get away with parodying something, using something from Marvel without their permission. And they're never going to give you permission. Don't try. And no publisher is willing to risk the legal wrath of the mouse for it. I mean, I think Preemie said something about Gaiman trying to get permission from Queen. I have no idea how much that cost. But the fact that it was Gaiman asking Queen, and probably lots of big high-level people in the middle, meant that they probably got to have that conversation in the first place.
Yeah, but Gaiman wasn't Gaiman for Good Omens.
I didn't hear you. Sorry,
Gaiman wasn't Gaiman when he wrote Good Omens. He was this guy kind of chained to Terry Pratchett and holding on real tight. That was like one of his first books, wasn't it?
Right, but I think Premium, you're talking about using Queen in the TV show Good Omens, right? Not the book?
Yeah, but
because
Bohemian Rhapsody is quoted extensively in the book as well. So yeah, they definitely would have had to pay for the TV show, and that means he's Gaiman and has the money. So,
right, exactly. And automated searching wasn't nearly as prevalent, and ebooks weren't nearly as prevalent.
Yeah.
Ebooks means automated searching. So in the old days, where you publish a book in hard copy, and an IP wanted to find out if anybody had used their stuff, they have to hire lots of bored baby lawyers to read through millions of piles of things looking for those needles in haystacks. These days, if your book has an electronic version, it's been indexed somewhere, and any brand can probably buy a search that says, show me every time this word combination shows up, and it spits out a list. It's a very different playing field for brand defense these days. There was a question earlier in the chat, I think, about defending trademarks and whether companies are more likely to come from negative portrayals or positive ones. The short answer is it doesn't matter whether the portrayal is negative or positive. One of the obligations that somebody has when you register a trademark is you have to defend it. Look up the concept of genericide, which is a wonderful word. It is why Xerox spends thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of writing magazine advertising saying it's a copy machine, it's not Xerox. Trademark names or brand names that become synonymous with the products that they sell, like Q-tip or Xerox or
Google
Scotch tape or
Kleenex.
Google's its own thing. That's a whole nother, we can do a whole nother hour about Google and whether or not it actually wants to fight genericide or not. I think to speak to the heart of your question, a negative portrayal of a trademark that causes damage reputationally will get their attention a lot faster than a neutral or even a positive trademark association. Think counterfeit luxury goods, right? People are going to go after somebody who is faking Gucci wallets or, Louboutin shoes very differently than they are going to go after somebody who is not trying to duplicate a luxury good. Those are reputational risks, and they spend a lot of time and they get a lot of customs help in defending those things.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Marguerite, I think we're going to tie it up for the podcast right now.
Sure.
Where can people find you online?
I am still for my sins on Twitter, and will be probably for the foreseeable future until they make it pay gated, as Legal Valkyrie. Let's see. Along with Alistair Stewart, we are the Hugo-nominated fanzine this year for The Full Lid. Woo! So that comes out every Friday at 5 and is what I will be doing after the stream wraps up this evening. Those are the two big places I'm on. Like I said, we stream twice a week at EA Podcasts here on Twitch. I'm on Twitter. I don't really blog so much. Most of my contributions to the world are of the behind the scenes and hopefully not nefarious by intent variety. Yeah. I do lots of different things. I'm on lots of different committees. I help out lots of different creatives. I'm very passionate about helping creative people learn business skills so that they can know when they're being exploited and how to get help and how to do things properly. And I do a lot of work with that here in the UK audio drama scene.
So we need to have you on Ditch Diggers to talk about protecting your own IP, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm going to be at a small fan convention in June called ArchiveCon, which is a Magnus Archives fan convention. And I'm going to be talking about fan art policies and what they are and why you need them and what they are not and all of that. Chungus does not have a Twitter account. Chungus just has his online wardrobe. Well, Alistair's also on TikTok, and there have been some Chungus appearances on TikTok.
Right. So anyway, you can find me at merverse.com. On Twitch, I stream on Monday through Thursdays. Noon Monday is Ditch Diggers, and the rest of the week is 3 o'clock. Tuesday, Thursday is I Should Be Writing, and Wednesday is usually gaming, unless I get a migraine and can't make it, like yesterday. I have a newsletter, and I'm Mighty Mer on most of the socials. I'm Mer herself on Mastodon when I remember to look at it, and Mighty Mer 2 on Instagram. I have not protected my brand, have I?
It's hard. One of the problems with having all these different platforms is trying to maintain a consistent identity across all of them. It's why most people tend to pick one that they lean into, and then they just have the rest available if they need them.
Yeah. So yeah, that is me. I'll be back on Tuesday. No stream on Thursday. I'll be driving to get my daughter from college. It is my ambition to get a regular show done and like in the feed. but we'll see how that works out. But thank you all for listening. Thank you for listening live. Thank you for listening later. And we'll catch you next week. And you should be writing. I Should Be Writing is available to you under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Theme music by John Anelio. Art by Numbers Ninja. Production by Summer Brooks. And hosting by Libsyn. Find all of this information and more at merverse.com. And remember, we can't do this without you. Thanks for your support.
Well, I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who. Yeah, I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.